Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into the DFS Minute brought to you by DFSArmy.com, your one stop shopping for all things daily fantasy sports, all tools, all everything covered from coaching advice to the beginning player to the intermediate player and on up. DFSArmy.com is where you can get all of that in one place, one community that roots you on, has a vested interest in your success because if you don't look good, we don't look good, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Down there in the comment section, I encourage you to check out the website and coupon code CHOP, CHOP, triggers a 20% off discount code for each and every month you remain a member. That said, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about kind of staying your ground, using leverage in standing pat as opposed to what everybody else in the industry does. Because if you want to play a truly contrarian style, I'm not a contrarian guy, I'm kind of a chalk eater, but there are a few common sense things that we can do that make, I guess, that kind of give you leverage in when people panic. And there's a way that I want to show you this. It's not super clear in my head, so I'm going to ramble a little bit, and I apologize for that. But I think that a lot of people get kind of stuck. They're trying to this guy's going to be chalk. I'm going to fade him and go with this guy, and that's fine. This guy's ownership is way up there, so I don't want as much exposure to him. And this guy's is way down there, so I want a lot more exposure to him. That's fine. The advantage in, say, NBA is late news, and this guy's scratched, and this guy's starting now, so let's all rush over here and get as much. And if I can get in ahead of everybody else, I'll get him at a lot higher ownership than everybody else in my lineups. And if he smashes, then everybody else will kind of be screwed. And that's true. But, it's supposed to rain in football this weekend, and everybody is getting off of that game. And if I can find a better game to get to, then I can, the people that are lazy and don't adjust their lineups, I can get, leverage on them. And that's true. But there's something also to be said for standing pat. Let's say you've worked and you've assembled lineups and you've got a couple of NBA players in place, and late news breaks. All of a sudden, Anthony Davis is scratched, and some, Kyle Kuzma or whatever becomes a strong value play, and the industry is rushing to him, and everyone's trying to beat the crowd into him at the last minute. 'Cause there's only 6 minutes to lock. Sometimes it's best to stand pat. If you didn't have anything involved in that, that scenario, don't rush into it. Don't make that last minute change like on your test as a school age kid. Oh, B or C, B or C, B or C. Oh, I should have left it B. Damn, I would have been right. Sometimes you would have been right if you wouldn't have moved. Sometimes when you move late, you kind of screw yourself. This can be exemplified in everybody runs away from it was supposed to be rain, now it's supposed to be snow in NBA or in NFL, and everybody runs away from the snow, and you go, you know what? I was playing the running back anyway. I'm going to stand pat. Sometimes that works, and that actually generates more leverage because as people run away, the guy that you stayed on all of a sudden becomes lower owned because he was higher owned, high-ish owned, and then everybody leaves. That's okay. Sometimes you gain leverage by standing pat. I want to show you in the research station for PGA kind of what I'm talking about. This is last week's Farmers Insurance Open, and I wish that this number had stayed in there, but it's obviously been reset. What we show in golf in a lot of cases is opening odds, live odds, and the drift, which is the change, right? If Rory McIlroy was, his odds were, 20 to 1 when this opened, and they came all the way down to 6 to 1 by the time they teed off on Thursday, then there's a positive drift in the odds on Rory McIlroy. He was not as favored to win, but all of a sudden he's more favored to win. And so you can pick up on that, and you can adjust your lineups to include more Rory because the odds of him winning got greater through Las Vegas, who has more resources than you do when it comes to determining who is maybe more likely to win than somebody else. And negative drift would, of course, be like a John Rahm who opens at 8 to 1 and ends up being 20 to 1. Oh, more and more people are getting it. So some people will play that drift in that I'm going to try and beat the herd onto that guy and go overweight on that guy. Some people will play the drift negatively with He opened at high odds to win. He's not as high odds to win. I'm going to stand pat and gain that leverage. And that's kind of what I'm telling you is something to think about as you start exploring, I guess, the depths of daily fantasy sports and how can you get a leg up on the field. Just because everybody's doing one thing doesn't mean you should do it. Just because everybody's going in to roster some scrub that's all of a sudden a value play doesn't mean you should do it. There's a lot of hype in sports and especially sports gambling, and learning to kind of cut through the noise and learning to only pay attention to what is actually going to affect things. It matters. I might get announced as the starter for a basketball game tonight and I'm minimum priced. That doesn't mean just because I'm going to get 30 some odd minutes that I'm some great value play. I can't hit a damn layup with a 6'8" guy standing in my face, much less a 7-footer. So that would be really, really bad. If everybody starts running to me, you and tweeting about it and everything else, you should sort of stand pat and say, you know what, that Chop guy's kind of a scrub when it comes to NBA anyway. He's not. If he had more talent, he'd get more minutes naturally anyway. He must be the last body that they have. Somebody coming up from the minor leagues that isn't a high prospect in baseball, that's more of a journeyman, um, doesn't always equate to a great value play. When he might just be due to injury the next best talented guy they had in their organization that actually ranks 24th on their roster instead of third. These are the types of guys, yeah, they can get lucky, yeah, they can have great nights, and it can make you feel like you made a bad decision. But sometimes staying away from those turds and letting everybody else run to the turd is what's going to generate your GPP winning leverage. And I would use the drift category here in the research station this week for the Waste Management Open to start determining how severe is that drift? How many people? How does that work with ownership projections here? Because when I'm looking at ownership projections, is this guy going to be chalky and the drift is positive? Then I might consider going with the crowd. But if the drift is negative, I might really reduce my exposure because Vegas knows something that I don't. Another one would be if he's really, really low owned and picks up some kind of a positive drift, 27 to 1 down to 10 to 1, and he's low owned, then I might go, oh man, I'm missing out on something. His stats line up pretty well for the course. His recent history is pretty good. His recent form is pretty good. I might all of a sudden jump on that guy at double the field. Last week, Patrick Reed's a good example, not because he had some great odds drift, but because he's a lower owned play. People don't like him because he's a bad personality. He's kind of a scumbag. At least that's his reputation around the league, and it rubs off on the casual PGA player. But he can still win. He's still a top, 10 or 20 ranked player in the world. I'm going to be overweight on that guy most of the time. Why? Because I'm going to use the public perception against him for leverage. But if I ever see positive odds drift where he starts at some 30 to 1 favorite to win and he drops down to 20 to 1, I'm going to up my exposure even more because some people might be running to him to roster him, but I know they probably won't because they don't like him. They don't want to root for him. They don't want him on their roster in the first place. So you can use multiple factors at once to gain leverage. And the way the chalk moves, or the way last minute news breaks, or the way odds drift, or the way all of these things come into play, these are things we talk about at DFS Army. These are things that should make you want to become a member, to come inside and improve your game and talk with us when we can have discussions back and forth and back and forth. If I just show you the PGA room alone in the last couple of minutes here, you can see the conversation between 3 or 4 members and a couple of coaches that just goes back again and again and again to talking philosophy, talking strategy, talking about what is the best way to interpret certain things in certain situations. And that's kind of what I decided to build this video around. So hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully this 5 minutes, 10 minutes means something to you on a weekly basis or on a daily basis or however often I think of something and put it out there to you. I'm Chapadong. I'm a coach and contributor inside DFSArmy.com. If you like the material, obviously like and subscribe to the video, pass it around on social media. Consider becoming a VIP inside DFSArmy.com where we can talk about this stuff with a little bit more time to make sure that you understand the concepts, can apply the concepts, and then can become a better DFS player, whether it's golf or basketball or baseball coming or NASCAR coming or any of it. In fact, I encourage you to go to DFSArmy.com, look up under the free offer tab, and take a peek at what it is that we have to offer. I'll put that link in our subscription or our comment section down below. and you can jump on that link if you want to try us out for a month for free. I think you'll like it. I think you'll stay. Take care, guys. We'll see you out there. Let's have a good Super Bowl, a good PGA week, good NBA week, whatever sport it is that you want to play. And thanks for watching the video.